All right, well, today being January 20th, 2010, the one-year anniversary of the day Lord Obama was sworn in, there was an amazing article up on Campaign for Liberty written by Anthony Gregory that I think deserves some attention. Obama said America would finally, quickly, and safely withdraw from Iraq and even pay for domestic needs with the savings. But it became clear by his February speech at Camp Lejeune that his approach would be more or less what we would have expected from a third Bush term, following the approximate benchmarks of the Status of Forces Agreement that Bush himself had acceded to in late 2008. Meanwhile, Obama gave no mention of the Vatican-sized embassy, its force protection, military contractors, troops charged with training the Iraqi military, or what quote-unquote non-combat troops was really supposed to even mean. All of this means the U.S. could indeed remain there longer than Bush had promised and could lead to another escalation in that theater of war. Over 100,000 U.S. troops remain in Iraq. 145 have died since Obama took office. In Afghanistan, the situation has been far worse than we could have probably expected under another year of Bush. This is all because, tragically, Obama has kept his promise. He announced in November the deployment of about 30,000 additional troops, bringing the total number up to about 3 times what it was when he took office. 2009 became the worst year for the Afghan people since 2001. More depredations of children's rights and the most civilian deaths since the invasion, included in airstrikes that are ripe with scandal and can only contribute to the terrorist threat. As commander of U.S. forces in Afghanistan, Obama picked General Stanley McChrystal, who became the target of controversy in the Bush years for the draconian handling of detention centers, the blocking of Red Cross from these prison camps, and for his involvement in covering up the truth about Pat Tillman's death. Needless to say, when McChrystal publicly contradicted the president's assessment of what was needed for victory, he was not fired for insubordination. Obama and the Democrats always criticized Bush and the Republicans for neglecting Afghanistan. The Democrats' due diligence has successfully made Afghanistan a far deadlier place than Iraq in the last year. About 300 have died there since Obama took office. This is all supposedly to take down about 100 members of al-Qaeda who live in Afghanistan and to stop a somewhat larger number in Pakistan from destabilizing that country. To stop the enemy in Pakistan, Obama has dramatically escalated drone strikes, launching them more than 40 times, killing far more civilians than militants and displacing as many as 2 million Pakistanis from the Swat Valley in one of the largest refugee crises since Rwanda. Obama assures us we need not actually invade and occupy Pakistan since it is a U.S. ally. But this policy of stability supposedly justifies the entire U.S. project in both nations. The military excursions, which the Democrats used to condemn as unilateralism when Bush did it, mount from nation to nation. In his November speech at West Point announcing the escalation in Afghanistan, Obama promised more intervention in Somalia and Yemen. He had already bombed and even with a small force invaded Somalia and provided about 80 tons of weaponry to Somalia's government, much of which ends up in the hands of the insurgents. His administration had threatened to invade Eritrea in April. In the next month, at least dozens of civilians were killed in Yemen by Obama's cruise missiles, which was soon after cited by the Christmas Day underwear bomber as the inspiration for his attempted act of blowback. Although his diplomatic tone towards Iran marks an improvement over Bush's belligerence, it is also less coherent, coming from an administration that claims Iran was caught with a nuclear facility that Iran itself had announced well within its rights to the International Atomic Energy Agency and that was not nuclearized at the time of this supposed revelation. Obama has approved tough sanctions on Iran, a classical act of war by other means, which will only hurt the Iranian people and strengthen the mullahs. While the claims that Iran is intervening in the battlefields of Iraq and Afghanistan against our forces strain credibility, In October, a terrorist associated with Jundallah, an al-Qaeda-affiliated enemy of the Iranian government that the United States most likely backs covertly, carried out a suicide attack that killed 31 people. Obama has also backed stricter sanctions against North Korea, $1 billion+ in foreign aid to Mexico so we can crack down on drugs, and $108 billion in loan guarantees to the International Monetary Fund. This last bit of spending, incidentally, was included in a war supplemental bill passed in June. Aside from the $108 billion for the IMF, was an off-budget $106 billion for Afghanistan and Iraq war spending, $660 million in aid for Gaza, $555 million for Israel, $310 million for Egypt, $300 million for Jordan, $420 million for Mexico, and $889 million for UN peacekeeping missions. This supplemental bill was requested by the man who said last February that this budget looks ahead 10 years and accounts for spending that was left out under the old rules. And for the first time, that includes the full cost of fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan. For 7 years, we've been a nation at war. No longer will we hide its price. The president who won the Nobel Peace Prize has pushed through the largest defense budget since World War II and just requested a total of $708 billion Department of Defense budget for next year. In some important ways, Obama's general promise to change foreign policy was always in tension with his specific campaign vows. To the extent it has changed, it has almost all changed for the worse. More intervention, more war, more foreign aid, more bombings. But the trajectory is approximately identical to the way it was under Bush. What else would we expect from the president who put McChrystal in charge of Afghanistan, appointed John Brennan, another Bush advisor closely associated with Bush's enhanced interrogation policies, to the post of Deputy National Security Advisor for Homeland Security, and kept Robert Gates as the Defense Secretary upon taking office on a campaign of hope and change?